Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of LCD 956 Fishing HQ on Spotify. I'm your host, Mark Villarreal, and today we have a very special guest joining us, Ruben El Catanero. If you're into fishing, especially gar fishing, you're in for a real treat. Our guest today not only is an expert angler, but also recently clinched the top spot at our 7th annual King of the Water fishing tournament. Today we'll be unraveling the secrets behind their success, discussing everything a beginner needs to know about gar fishing, from gear and techniques to safety and conservation. So whether you're a seasoned angler or someone looking to try your hand at this exciting sport, stay tuned for some invaluable insights. Without further ado, let's give a warm welcoming to our champion guest, Ruben El Catanero, and congratulations on your recent tournament win. How does it feel to be at the top?
It feels great to be able to achieve so much over time. It was a battle. It was a fight. So many years of experience battling these heats, and it was really, really hot out there this tournament weekend. But it does feel nice. Overall, it feels nice to be here. I've battled hard sweat. I was rosao all weekend. I mean, that's what it is.
He got a little rashed being out there in the heat.
Yeah. So it was a tough one, but at the end, I'm just excited because it paid off. Everything
Yes,
hard work pays off, and that's what it came down to.
And again, congratulations, man. So, Ruben, have you been a part of any other local tournaments here in the Rio Grande Valley?
Yes, I was actually also a part of Rain or Shine tournament, and I believe I was actually several tournaments, so I can't recall all of them, but I have been part of several tournaments.
Awesome. So we hosted our 7th annual King of the Water fishing tournament. It was basically a freshwater tournament that we host annually here in the RGV in the Rio Grande Valley, but everybody from all over are welcome. And Ruben went against some pretty good gar fishermen. You know, he's good as well. He went against some very good people. So, man, it's exciting. It's awesome to see people, doing events like this and fishing their butts off, man. I know how it is. I've been in a couple tournaments myself. It's very fun. It's awesome. Back in the day, this used to be more common when I started fishing in the when I started with the Facebook fishing communities. We used to have a lot of tournaments, man. There was other pages, not only Los Canaleros and 956 that hosted tournaments. You had Canal Fishing Junkies. You had I forgot the other names. It's been a long time, and I joined a couple, and it's fun. And ever since then, people kind of just stopped doing them, but we kept going.
Right.
We kept going. So every year we try to do something awesome. So hopefully next year you can be a part of it and all that good stuff. So today's episode is going to be talking about the truth behind gar fishing, what it takes, what gear, what techniques, advice that we might have from one experienced angler and another for you all to talk about, the truth behind gar fishing. When I say the truth is, man, you're looking at the Facebook groups and you see people catching gar every day. Every day people are posting gar. And then you have your beginner fishermen or your beginner gar fishermen that are like, damn, how do they do it? Where do they go? There's a lot of answers behind that. And I think it's something that we should cover, as well as the type of gears, the rod, the reel, the lines and all that stuff. So we're talking earlier, a lot of people come to me and they're like, Mark, where can I go catch a gar? And I asked you the same question. Do people ever... And I kind of already knew because somebody like yourself that's constantly active on the gar fishing community, I can just imagine the amount of people that ask you. So,
yes.
Yes. People do ask you.
Yes, they do ask me all the time. I'm a licensed bait dealer, so I deal with a lot of anglers on a daily basis. I conversate with them. We build friendships, so we kind of earn a little bit of a trust. And I see as much as it takes, and many times as it takes for them to hit the water before they come out. They come out with a gar, so it's not. I'm gonna go here and hit this spot today and hit. Sometimes these anglers will hit the same spot 4 or 5 times before they come out on top with a gar. So I do get asked that question frequently, where to go. where can I hit? Where can you put me on one? The situation with that is you have to hunt them. You can go to the same spot that you hit a gar yesterday, and they won't be as active the next day. The next day you can waste 12 hours there before you pull one out. You know,
Definitely.
and that's kind of how the game goes. So I like to have variety spots. I hunt them down, and that's just what it takes. The footwork. The footwork is what you got to do. And somebody when I first got introduced to gar fishing, they told me one of my best friends was going to be Google Maps. And sure enough, Google Maps was one of my best friends and still has been till this day. We also deal with a lot of situations as far as private property, trespassing. A lot of these hotspots, they are private property. And unfortunately, it comes down to people trashing areas. Farmers get mad, they run us off. So we do have to keep our areas clean and stuff like that. But spots are not just, there's no, like you said earlier, there was not a majestic area where you can go to. The majestic place I've only seen has been Corpus Christi Lake. That place is amazing, but it's far distance from here. You also
Sure.
got to be on a boat. You got to know the depth of the water, where to find them at. But yes, it's a footworking job. It's not. I'm gonna go hit one spot. You can hit one spot. You just can spend some time, but you're gonna be there for a while if they're not as active as they should be, or as they if they were eating.
Definitely. And so I'm going to talk in reference to the RGV, the Rio Grande Valley, without talking about other fishing spots outside of the valley just yet. Because a lot of the people that ask me, they're like, Mark, where can I go? They expect to go fishing here locally in the RGV because there's a lot of people who post on our local fishing pages where they're catching alligator here in the Rio Grande Valley. So here's the thing behind that. A lot of these people that are constantly catching, putting posts out there with gar almost on a daily basis. I was one of those persons when I first started, all over the valley fishing. Um, a lot of these people, what you all need to understand is they know where to go, and like he mentioned before, a lot of spots are trespassing. And it's not like if they're doing anything bad. I'm not saying they're jumping fences and they're breaking into places. It's not that type of trespassing, but trespassing in the way that that property does have a property owner. Some property owners are strict. Some property owners are not strict. Some properties are game warden hotspots where game wardens will come up to you, and they can be friendly and they cannot be friendly. It just depends the situation, how they're feeling and where you're at or whatever the reason is. A lot of people who go out there and they're constantly being warned by the game warden and getting citations and all that. Yes, the game warden is probably going to give them more tickets and keep on giving them tickets. Um, so, that being said, there's a lot of good spots out here, but unfortunately, they are private property. So I don't refer anybody to those spots. Do I know of these spots? Yes, I know many of these spots. But I don't like to send my clients, my customers, or people to those spots because I don't want to get them in any type of trouble. The game warden, the landowner, maybe some bad group of guys who show up and you never know.
Right.
It's not safe. It's not like going to a public place where it's permitted and it's safe and it's at least safer, right? So that's the thing behind about these private property areas and the anglers who are constantly catching and putting uh, gars out there on Facebook and all that. Some might have permission with landowners. And yeah, I used to be one of those persons that I used to have permission with certain landowners. To this day, I do. Where I have permission with the landowners where no other people don't have permission. So where do I recommend people? I recommend people to public places. For example, when we're talking about the RGV, Falcon Lake, um, Delta Lake, Benson Park, the Arroyo Colorado. There's some public places in the Arroyo Colorado. And the Arroyo Colorado seems to hold some good guard, but it's not a majestic spot, you know. So that's what I recommend and suggest to my peoples. And you're a pretty active gar fisherman in the RGV. I do my most of my gar fishing. I do it up north, and for example, in Cho Canyon in Lake Corpus Christi, rarely in Falcon Lake. But the reason why I brought you is because you're very active right now in the in the Facebook fishing community, and a lot of your fishing is down here in South Texas.
Yes, sir.
So So yeah, for the people that haven't had the opportunity to meet you and all that, other than that, what else would you recommend to them if they're trying to find a good spot?
I would recommend to look for activity. There's a lot of areas where gar are huge and they're very active, but they're not surfacing. And they're there, which those are the areas for me that may take about 6, 8 hours to land a monster, come out on top of the gar. For me, what I like to do personally is I'll go scout. I'll look at different areas and I'll wait till I find one that has an active area. I want to find an area where I see 3 or 4 alligator gar rising to the top of the water, 2 footers, 3 footers, 4 footers, various different sizes. I want to see the water rippling. If I see activity, that tells me okay, the alligator gar are here. They're on top of the water. I need to use a top water float. I usually will target the bait that is abundant to them in that type of water, whatever is on their daily menu. And depending on type of water that you're dealing with, will determine the type of bait that you use to target for them, with the gar in that body of water.
That's a great point that you have there, and it's something that I've always kept in mind, and I've recommended to some people. For example, you're fishing the Arroyo Colorado by Arroyo City. What type of bait would you recommend people to use there?
Okay, right there you're dealing with a brackish water. You're more towards the saltwater side. So right there you're gonna be able to use mullet as one of your baits. You would recommend XL mullet, horse mullet, the giant size mullet, and well, carp is also a universal bait. So that carp is usually in all types of water. That's why people call it gar candy because it can be used in any type of body of water. But my main key would be in my mullet to run to mullet, something on their daily menu.
And I would be on the same page as you because it's like you just said, what's abundance in that area that you're fishing. In that area, everybody, if you're fishing the Arroyo Colorado, closer to your salt water, brackish waters, how he mentioned, a mullet. Mullet for me would be on the top of their food chain. On that triangle, it would be at the top. And even gizzard shad because you do have a lot of shad and all that. And then everything else from there. But when I used to fish the Arroyo Colorado a lot, I used to I used to use mullet probably about 80% of the time. Yes, 90% of the time. I would even catch it right there.
Yes, sir.
And
yes,
you would
sir.
and you catch it. There's tons of it. So what does that tell you? That's probably
that's what they're
eating,
right?
right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you see, you already have a good tip if you're trying to fish in brackish waters close to Arroyo City or close to the salt water and all that. Where the fresh water and the salt water meet. How about either fishing maybe one of these lakes, Falcon Lake, Benson, or perhaps Delta Lake? What would you use?
So a lot of these lakes, they're either spring fed and they're mostly stationary waters. They're stationary bodies of water, which means they don't have much of an inflow or outflow of it. It's just rises and drops according to a rain level or the amount of rain that we receive. With that being said, it's considered fresh water, and your targeted bait would be probably tilapia there. Tilapia and carp would be main key in fresh water, the stationary lakes, Resaca, San Benito's, anything, Resaca City and San Benito, anything that you find that doesn't have an in and take and outtake, and it's mostly stationary water, it's going to be tilapia and carp.
That's right. That's totally right, man. And would you use mullet in that situation?
No, I would not use mullet there.
I wouldn't use mullet either.
That's kind of tough. They'd have to be really hungry, but don't get me wrong. Alligator gar are very predatory fishes. They will attack. Just about anything closer to mating season, they become very active. They become very aggressive. They'll eat anything from crows to chickens to anything. That's depending on the type of time that you catch them. But you want to up your chances, you better target the bait that's mostly on their
Exactly. He's right. They can eat possibly anything. You see, I've been to various lakes and people swear by Gaspergoo. They're like, no, freshwater drum. I'm like, damn. And I give it the chance and I give it the chance and I never catch anything with freshwater drum. And I'm like, why do these people up north here, they swear by freshwater drum? Well, the only conclusion that I had towards that up north is maybe they don't have the chance or opportunity that we do to catch carp, to use carp. So they catch freshwater drum a lot. So that's what they're putting. And eventually they're going to hook onto a fish.
Eventually.
But when I put carp against freshwater drum, carp is always winning, man. And it doesn't take long.
Yes, sir. You got to up the odds there. Yes,
so that's the conclusion that I came up with. Like, well, these people don't know how to, not that they don't know how, but it's not common for them to catch carp like it is for us. We go to our local canals. We catch carp in our backyards here in the Rio Grande Valley, and these lakes do have carp. It's just that they don't target them the way that we do. You know, we in the valley, we are savage, man. We find a way to catch a lot of fish, and I think that we are pretty damn good at catching, especially bait fish. You know, we're out there throwing those nets and all that good stuff. So,
Yes, sir.
so yeah, we're talking about the different types of baits and all that in the RGV, like you said. Your mullet's gonna be good in your brackish waters. Your tilapia and your carp's going to be good in your freshwater areas and all that good stuff. So keep in mind, everybody, you know, just like he mentioned, if you're going to Delta Lake, if you're going to Benson, if you're going to Falcon, you know, try not to waste your time on taking a bait that probably isn't going to work as good as carp or tilapia. Now, I know you mentioned crow. Did you know that crow is that you can legally use crow or blackbird as bait?
Okay, no, I did not know.
Okay, well, I spoke to a couple of game wardens back in the day, and yes, you're allowed to use crow, urraca, what we know it by, or blackbird, whatever you know that bird by. I don't know if blackbird and crow is the same thing, but what I am understood that the blackbird, you are allowed to use it as bait as long as you hunt it in a property where you have permission. And you have obviously a hunting license. And then you use it. Now, for some of y'all, like, whoa, blackbird, how do you do it? I've done it in the past. The way that we do it is we skin it like if it was a dove, right? We just leave the breast, and you put the breast on the hook.
Right.
I don't know about frogs. If frogs are legal.
Frogs are legal, but like you said, you have to have a hunting license for frogs.
Yeah.
And that one for me has been a great choice of bait during the times that I've chose to use it. But there's also a certain kind of frog that you have to target.
The two more common frogs that we have are the big frogs that you probably find in your backyard by the water hose. The fat ones that are just hopping around, and then you see the skinny long leg ones that are in the canals jumping.
Those are the good ones.
Yes,
sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, hunting license is necessary. I have spoken to several game wardens about that. And because I was interested in you selling that as a bait, and it does take there's a lot of restrictions on it. But as far as personal use, you can just get a hunting license, and as long as you got a hunting license, you can use a frog. And pretty much the way I've seen it, if you get that nice, smooth, silky frog, each frog is a gar, pretty much. And if it's not a gar, it's a catfish. But they're key baits. Just they're not always easy to find. Mostly you'll find them more active after rainy days.
Yeah, after rains, and they just seem to
they'll
pop
come up
out
to the banks and stuff. During hot summer days, you're gonna have to shoot off with your carp, tilapia, or mullet, depending on what you're targeting.
Definitely. So those are some great tips on the baits that we would probably recommend for y'all to use. Most importantly, just like he mentioned, no matter where you're at, whatever there's an abundance of in that body of water is probably going to be your best bait of choice. And as long as it's a legal bait, I know some people will probably be like, well, can you use a bass? Well, here in the state of Texas, unfortunately, you can't use a bass. It's a game fish. You can't use it. A white bass, you can't use it, or stuff like that. You don't want to be caught using that type of bait. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's necessary, man. You don't need that. You can be well off using carp or tilapia or mullet or gizzard shad.
And tilapia is even readily available at your local HEB or Walmart, little grocery store.
So what's your take on that? Because let's say somebody's not successful in their bait chasing, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, you can go get bait and you can go get tilapia at Walmart or
so the tilapia
whatever.
At Walmart, you never know how long it's been saved, sitting down on a shelf. So that's always your gambling choice that you're taking, your risk. But I mean, as long as it's decently fresh, you got a visual inspection you can take of it. Sometimes they sell them descaled, I believe. I'm not sure. And well, if the guard's hungry, he's gonna take it. If he's hungry and that's all you got, that's your choice. Run with it. I mean, there's days where I've been out there on the water and you're down to your last little piece of bait and it's probably just a tail and you're like, I'm just gonna use it. I got another hour to burn, and you slam on that. So that's what you have to work with, run with it, and if you get blessed by that day, it was your day. It was meant to be that day.
Yeah. So back on the subject on where can I go fishing? So here in the RGV, you're limited to spots due to places being closed down. I remember about 10 years ago when I started, well, more than 10 years ago when I started gar fishing, you know, a lot of spots were open for us to fish. You know, the floodways, we never had problems. You know, you have Santa Monica, Sebastian, you have San Perlita. Those are the main floodways that empty out our waters. You know, when you have heavy rains and these canals overfill, you know, and they go to the floodways and then they end up going to our bay.
Right.
So the floodways back in the day wasn't a big deal. Now, most of them, most areas, you got to go into crops and fields and all that. Those areas are going to be restricted. But what I do know is you're allowed to fish, for people that want to try fishing the floodways, you're allowed to fish from all the major Texas highways. For example, let's say you're coming down 1420 for the ones that are familiar. And for the ones that are not, 1420 is the highway that takes you from Arroyo City to Port Mansfield. Santa Monica floodway runs right over there. You're legally allowed to fish, and don't take my word for it, but it's either 100 feet from the highway to the field. You're legally allowed to fish. If you pay attention when you're there on that waterway, and you look to the right of the field or the left of the field, you're gonna see a purple post. Anything between the highway and that purple post, you're legally allowed to fish there.
Correct.
Anything past that purple post, it's a no-go. So for the ones that want to try those areas, that is legal. And again, if it's something that you all are kind of still not convinced about, reach out to your local game wardens. You know, there's a list of game wardens, I'm sure, online that they can probably find, and they can call and ask. If you have to ask more than one game warden, ask more than one game warden, because sometimes one game warden will tell you one thing and the other will tell you another. They're not always aware of the laws themselves. It's unfortunate to say it, but it's the truth. So I don't know if you were aware that they can legally fish from the highway to a certain period. I don't know if it's 100 feet or 50 feet or 200 feet.
Okay, so check this out. I actually looked into it a lot, and I've contacted a lot of the game wardens in the areas that I have the questions about. A lot of our three main floodways here in the valley are Hidalgo, main drainage. We got our Willamar, main drainage, and then we got our Sebastian, Santa Monica drainage. Those are our main three floodways right here that run from the valley all the way straight out to the bay. And they're man-made. And, well, I started reading the book to figure out, okay, where can I actually fish without getting into problems? So I started reading the Game Warden's our handbook. And you have 22 feet. That's what it is. 22 feet from the bridge to the purple pole. Now, these purple poles are being placed a little bit more closer than we think they are now. It's the farmers that are placing the poles, and well, if you can gain a few feet, they're shooting it. So, but at the end of the day, we got to respect that purple pole, because when the game warden shows up over on the other side, we know what time it is.
Sure.
Now, between the poles, you have your bridge. Anywhere underneath the bridge and the water is all considered that's public. That's public water. You can go into the water as long as you stay under the bridge.
Sure.
So anywhere under the bridge, and then also you have your easement that leads to the side of the bridge that it's probably about 18 to 22 feet as well.
Yeah,
and that's
around.
Correct. So you have your public access, and it cannot be blocked due to the fact that if they need to come, an ambulance needs to get in there, or a firefighter needs to get in there to save another individual. They need
You can't block that easement.
You cannot block the easement that way, and that's another thing that anglers need to be aware of, because they will bring that to your attention. They'll ask you to move your vehicle or anything out of the way, because that is public access, and everybody needs access to that, especially in a situation of emergency. But yes, it's 22 feet, and right there on 1420, there's actually a lady that lives around the corner. They own the property, and that's the only bridge that I've seen so far that they put no parking signs on all four corners.
Sure.
And it just recently happened. I have some video footage and stuff of dealing with her and game wardens at the same time, and she was trying to run me off, saying that it was private property. But as long as you know the laws, take your time, sit down, read the handbook. A lot of anglers, they just want to go with what people say. You take the time into your hands and learn the law.
Exactly.
And that wouldn't right.
Don't go by people's words.
Yes, yeah, and you use that. And when you feel like you're in the right and you're following everything, you stay there and wait for that game warden. And if you're wrong, well, then you let them know, well, this is what I read. But 9 out of 10, they'll negotiate with you because you didn't run away. Don't be disrespectful. Just try to push the situation right. Now I've also been out in Bayview. Bayview, there's some public areas out there. One of my favorite areas I like to hit out there is Chachalaca Road. It's a nice spot out there. It's public, but there's a lot of individuals there that will tell you otherwise. And I've had to stay there as well, waited out for game wardens to show up because I know the law, and I know that if there's you got to be aware of purple poles, no trespassing signs, proper property signs. If those things are not there and you publicly accessed it through a public road, and you didn't jump a fence, there's a path, anything something that's accessible to the public, you stay there and you wait and you figure out whether it's not or it is. And that's what I had to go through right there in one of the areas. And then game warden showed up, gave me clearance, and I was able to fish. But I didn't just run away because a local told me to leave.
Sure.
Because I know the law, and that's what I'm trying to tell people. Just take your time, study and read that book. There's so many different laws also when you're on the water. Entering water through private property, even though like I have permission to fish on private property here in the floodways. And once I'm on the water, there's certain banks that you can get only according to water levels, and you don't have to understand the water level where its natural water level line is at, and that where you can step your foot off if necessary. And if you don't know these laws and you start getting off the boat and walking around, even though you were on the water and then you access private property, you're trespassing at that moment. So you can actually bank on some areas, but you got to understand where the natural water level line is at.
To be able to bank.
To be able to bank or at least
anchoring down.
Yeah. Yeah, you can anchor down. A lot of people come across that debate as far as that the anchor touching the bottom.
Yeah.
You know,
I know what you mean.
It's a very, very common question.
So again, no, what he's saying it's very awesome information, but at the end of the day, what should they do?
Yeah,
read the handbook.
You gotta read the book,
right?
Yeah,
Or ask questions to your law enforcement and all that, because we can sit here and say one thing, and at the end of the day, maybe something gets misunderstood or whatever the deal is. But it's awesome that he's giving you some great tips and knowledge for you to be able to access these areas.
Yes. So when I started and I didn't have access to these private properties, I targeted the areas that I know were public accessible. So a lot of these floodways, they run over overpasses, bridges, and as long as you take Google Maps, that's your best friend, and follow these rivers down and follow the overpasses and the crosses, the highway crosses.
Highways, yeah.
And those will be your access points for you to try to find which one is active. What is the water level looking like in this area, the height and everything.
To better understand the water and
Correct.
the waterways and see where you can perhaps go and fish. So yeah, that's a very great point, and how he said, I think he touched the next subject I was going to ask about, fishing inside or putting a boat or whatever in the water. Once you're in the water, as long as you know where to bank off, if you have to bank off, but regardless, once you're in the water, I'm understood, it's a free game.
Free game, yes, sir.
It's a free game. Now, there's another great tip. I know a lot of us don't have kayaks or don't have boats or john boat or whatever the deal is to access the water. But if you're serious about fishing, I've told everybody, man, if you get your hands on a little john boat, a kayak, a john boat that you can put a motor on it, legally have it with a running motor, dude, you will be successful and you will access areas that nobody can access in these waters.
Yes, sir. It's very simple.
It takes a little investment, but if you like it, you want to be successful, that's probably your best bet. Unfortunately, not everybody has the luxury to do it, so you can still do it off the banks. Just know your limits and your laws and all that good stuff, accessing these waters.
Right.
So, you talked about Bayview. I talked about the floodway, Santa Monica, San Perlita, the Willamar floodway. All of these waterways are good here in the RGV, people, if y'all are ever trying to access them. I don't encourage anybody to go into the fields. That's on your own. Perhaps you will get in trouble, perhaps you won't. But you did not hear it from me to tell you to go on and do it. But if I can give you some great advice, if you're in a property and you're not aware if it's private or not and you're fishing, look, man, be respectful, have a trash bag, start picking up trash. Put that trash bag. Push comes to shove, a game warden comes, landowner comes, and they're like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. We're like, I'm sorry, sir, I did not know I was not aware that I can't fish here. I took the initiative to pick up some trash. if I can't fish here, sir, I totally understand, and just go about your day and find yourself another spot. But I think that would be, I always tell people, go clean up their properties a little bit,
Oh, yeah.
and they might be more lenient. And at the end of the day, you might even get permission from them to fish there
Correct,
because
correct.
they probably like you by that point, right? And also, just like he said, if you are aware of the laws and you're fishing a place and somebody wants to kick you out, and you know for a fact that you can fish this, don't argue or disrespect that person. Be the better person.
Yes.
Don't be there fighting with them. Just be like, look, respectfully, call the police, call the game warden, and we can settle that then.
Correct.
But I'm aware that I can fish here. Just don't try to pull a... Two Karens is not better than one.
Yes. So check. This is what I did. This is how I came out successful on one time, actually dealing with the female. I had already seen her. So I knew she was gonna come and give me an issue about being on, and what she was, from her perception, was private property. I know I was legally accessing the area, so I wasn't on private property. As soon as I saw her approaching me, I activated my GoPro. I had my GoPro on my chest. I activated my GoPro and I pulled out my phone, and I started recording. And I knew that she was gonna give me an issue, and I knew I wasn't violating any laws. So I recorded and everything. The lady left. Game warden showed up. I did a full 360 of where I was standing at while I was recording, and I knew the cops were gonna arrive as well. So as soon as they arrived, I showed them the video footage. I'm like, here's my where I was positioned at when she arrived. I did a full 360 to show you that I'm not on private property. I'm fishing off the easement off the side of the bridge, and that saved me. That is proof that I wasn't trespassing.
Sure.
That saved me, and I was actually able to show them that it wasn't a he said, she said thing. It wasn't a verbal dispute. Now it was actual proof of where I was at.
Sure.
And they advised me as well, the game warden, they said, for future references, if you can, record again if she gives you problems of fishing here, and that will always save you. But if you don't have anything to prove of exactly where you're standing at and you're actually fishing in a legal area, then you're pretty much just what she's saying and what you're saying.
For sure.
So that kind of saved me on one of my incidents.
There you go. Just be respectful. If you have something to record with, record. And one more tip for anybody that's out there fishing these areas: have a driver license if you're driving. Have your plates current, insurance on your vehicles, because if the game wardens or the law enforcement cannot get you for trespassing, sometimes they'll find something to get you. Don't give them a reason to. If you're wrong, don't even bother. Go about your day. Don't even try to argue. Just go about your day. But especially if you're drinking, doing anything you're not supposed to. I'm telling you because it happened to me in the past, man. I've fished these areas. I've trespassed so many areas. I know it sounds a little sketchy, right? But I've been there. I've done that. And one time I was fishing by the highway, so they couldn't get me for trespassing. But I know I was in my wrong. They got me for no driver license, for my plates being expired. Mm-hmm. Man, I still got a heck of a ticket, man. So just always make sure everything's up to date and current and all that. So we went over the spots that you can try, the floodways. The Arroyo Colorado. The Arroyo Colorado runs basically, if I'm not mistaken, it runs from Mission all the way through the south region of the Rio Grande Valley, and it goes and empties out to Arroyo City, to our lower Laguna Bay. The Arroyo Colorado River holds a lot of gar. The honey spots that I've caught gar at the Arroyo Colorado are Mercedes, it's okay. La Feria, it's good. Harlingen, it's awesome. Up to Rio Hondo, it's good. The only thing about getting up to Rio Hondo, it gets wider. It's a little harder to catch them.
Correct.
Arroyo City, right before, there's a lot of gar over there. Same thing in Rio Hondo. But the river gets wide where your chances aren't as,
Correct.
great.
So that's what I tell a lot of people. I say, okay, so they ask me, you live in Rio Hondo. Where's a good spot out here to slam some gar? I'll tell them, well, go as far as further in as you could go, because you got an 8-lane highway and it's huge for a gar to go up and down.
Rio Hondo, Arroyo
Yeah.
City.
Yeah, so you want a little
Narrow it down.
Yeah, you want a little 2-lane highway, a 2-lane road where your targets, your chances of a guard passing by are a lot easier than this big old giant body of water. And that Arroyo Colorado is like a traveling highway for gar. They are up and down. It's running water all the time.
Yes, sir.
So you want to target for me, I target bends. I love bends. Bends, for some reason, there's deeper because of water traveling through it. It's the process of erosion. Picks up dirt as it hits that corner with a little bit of rush. Creates a little bit of a deeper hole pockets for them.
Because of the current where it puts pressure running
Correct.
through.
Yes.
It's obviously deeper for the people that didn't understand or don't know. What he's saying is totally correct. Look for those curves, those bends. Those bends are probably going to be a little deeper than your straight lane because, believe it or not, it doesn't get too deep out there.
Yeah.
It doesn't get too deep, but there are deep areas if you get to know where they're at.
Yeah. So I'll target inwards. I wouldn't even fish around my area in Rio Hondo. If I'm gonna go in, it's gonna go into the by the hospital, by the bird trail. It's gonna be further
Harlingen.
in Harlingen area.
Yeah.
I usually don't make my way further up towards Mission and that area.
Yeah, it's not good over here in this neck of the woods. Not that I don't want you to come over here, but we're being 100% honest with you all. Those are probably the cities you want to target. Harlingen, La Feria area.
Yeah, it's nice out there. And then as you make your way further in, you're getting more fresher water now. So now your bait availability for the fish is, you can use a little bit of everything. You can use a little bit of everything because now you're getting more into fresh water, but it still leads to brackish water. Still turns to salt water at the end. But when you get more further in, you can use tilapia, you can use carp, you can use shad, you can use mullet. Because everything's available on their list.
Sure.
In that type of water.
And I've seen mullet run all the way to Mission. Believe it or not, I have caught mullet in the arroyo. I don't know if it's the arroyo, but for those of y'all that know this area in Sherryland, right behind Walmart, the canal that runs through the Cimarron, I've caught mullet. So they travel.
Oh, yeah.
They travel, bro. So, yeah, mullet's still good. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to use carp or tilapia over here in this side if I was fishing closer to this side. So, I think we went over some pretty good spots for you all. You know, a little bit of great tips of where to access, how to access, the type of baits to use and all that. I think another thing that we should go over is perhaps real quick the limit on gar. The limit on gar, alligator gar, which is your common gar with the big snout, short snout, big gars that grow big. Those are one per person in the state of Texas, except Falcon Lake. Falcon Lake is the only exceptional place where you can catch 5 gars per person per day. Other than that, anywhere else, no matter where you go, no other lake, no other river, canal, body of water in the state of Texas, you can only harvest 1 alligator gar per person per day. But there's other species.
Right.
That have no limit of gar.
Yeah, so you'll be dealing with the long nose, needle nose. There's unlimited. Their max growth is close to about 5 feet.
Yeah.
And it's iffy to find one about that big, but it is possible.
It is.
And then you got your spotted gar.
Yeah.
And spotted gars, they're about 36, 42 inches and max growth, and they can get pretty chunky as well. The long nose gar, for a fact, there's no limit on these species, but the long nose gar has some beautiful white meat.
It does.
Yeah, it's
soft.
it's just harder of a shell.
The shell,
right?
yeah.
For the
It's
cleaning
easier
process.
for me to clean a 6-foot alligator gar than a 3-foot long nose
3-foot
gar,
long
man. It's annoying, dude. It's like, be careful because you'll cut your knuckles through.
Just trying to cut it through, yeah.
If you're not careful, those things are sharp and they're hard, man. But yeah, you know, so there's spotted gar, there's long nose. I think there's a hybrid gar also, and there's another species of gar. I'm not 100% sure what the name is, but all those other species, they have no back limit, meaning you can catch any size, the amount that you want. For those of y'all that, you know, sometimes see posts and you see people with like 15 of these gars. Well, they don't have a limit. Unless it's the alligator gar, well, it's 1 per person. So I think that's a good, thing for y'all to know. Let's talk about gear. So my type of go-to gear that a lot of people have seen on YouTube and Facebook and at my store, my number one go-to is a live liner. A live liner is basically a spinning reel, and it has a second drag mechanism at the end where you can activate a secondary drag without having to move your main drag, which is your top knob. So this is a very good way to fish. It's become very common here in South Texas. The further you go up north towards Houston, Galveston, in those areas, they use more conventional. And there's still a couple of people out here in the Rio Grande Valley that use a conventional reel. The people who don't know what a conventional reel is basically, for the listeners on Spotify, watch our video on YouTube at Los Canaleros del 956 so you can have a visual look of what we're talking about. But this is your conventional reel right here. There's all types of brands and everything, but I think the ones that I would recommend is maybe like a 6,000, 6,500, perhaps a 7,000. And on your spinning reels, anywhere from a 5,000 to a 8,000. They do make them bigger, but I don't think you need anything bigger. That's going to be something that I would recommend, that I commonly sell and see people with. What type of reels are you using? Conventional, spinning,
I just
live
use regular.
liners?
I don't have any live liners, not yet. I use just regular spin reels. I'm just a regular guy. I have to tighten my drag and loosen my drag as I go and find these gar. I do use just regular spinning reels, and I preferably use 100-pound, but because I target very brushy banks. I'm more of a bank warrior, so dealing with the brush, the bamboo, the tree lines, all that on the edges. The 100-pound is not to secure the gar because it's not what you need. The 100-pound line is to battle those branches, to get my leader back, to pull it off of those trees, to be able to cut those curves. Or
perhaps you have a gar and it's around that stump, and that 100-pound can probably get that gar out, and there you go. You
correct. Yes,
you
sir.
successfully caught that gar.
You successfully land, and that's what you deal with a lot of these rivers. Like we were talking earlier about picking up trash. There's a lot of debris in there. You'll find tires. You'll find all kinds of stuff that people throw in there, and then by the time you know it, you land a gar and you're hooked up on a couch or something on the edge, and it's sad to say and sad to hear, but it does happen. And for me, the 100-pound at least gives me a little bit more of an opportunity to be able to pull that tire out of the way or whatever the stump that I'm wrapped around on. But yes, I know we were speaking about 60-pound, 50-pound, 40-pound.
Something that I would use.
Right. And how does that help you out there on the lakes?
So I'm no longer your bank warrior like you are yourself. But when I was using the same thing you were. I didn't have live liners. When I started gar fishing, I didn't use live liners, but I did use 100-pound. We all did. We were using 100-pound test. At the time, we really didn't understand why, in like how he's explaining it. Now I do, but back in the day, we just thought we needed a 100-pound test. But over the years of experience, I kind of got to understand what you're talking about. You need some heavy duty line to be able to pull, a snag or a gar that wrapped around a stump or something, or to retrieve your leader back after the alligator gar or turtle goes and takes your leader to the to the bamboo or whatever that debris is. So yeah, now I fish a lot of lakes. I do a lot of alligator gar fishing guiding. So I don't have the pleasure to fish for myself anymore. And it's okay because I love putting people on alligator gar. It's amazing to be able to. I've caught so many that, I like to see other people catch gar. So that being said, I fish in areas that are wide open. I don't need a 100-pound test. If you have that type of fishing, I would recommend stick to 40, 50, 60 if you think 40 is too little. I even go down to 30 pounds.
Wow.
I think I have one rod that has 20 pound. But that's a little more fun, tricky setup that I probably wouldn't recommend a beginner angler to use. 30, 40, 50, 60 is great. Why? Because I want you to have a lot of line capacity. The style of fishing that I do, I let them run a lot. I let them run 250 yards sometimes. That's a lot of line. But I have a whole playground.
Yes, sir.
I have a whole playground to play with them with. So that's the advantage. And not only that, not only because I get more line capacity, but the smoothness of going light braid, you get a smoother cast and you get a farther cast. and overall it just feels great compared to some thick, heavy line. But I understand where he comes from, and he doesn't use live liner reels. He uses regular spinning reels. So that being said, and his success rate is very high. That being said, is you don't need a live liner. Um, it just takes a little more, I guess, maybe experience to handle it with the live liner. There's little things. I mean, I'm sorry, with a non-live liner spinning reel, there's little things you can do where you can use one and be very successful with it without having to worry about, oh, did I tighten it too hard while that gar is running? But that too much details to get into that. But yeah, I use 40, 50, 60 pound test.
Awesome. So another situation. I mean, we were talking about bait in different areas. Another topic is the rigs that we use on the certain types of water. So a lot of people will tell me, well, what kind of bait do I use? Well, okay, I can kind of help you on that. Now, I can send you to certain areas, but how's the water there looking? Is it running water? Is it very high current? Is it stationary water? So you will have to learn to adjust your egg weight size, your flat no roll weight size.
Non-roll, flat bottom.
Yeah, you have to adjust the out size according to your current pool.
He's definitely right.
Yeah, so
he's 100% right what he's saying.
Then that's one thing you would have to do on the fly when you're there, because it can change in different fishing spots.
So let's say when people come to my store and they're like, oh, I need some weights. The first thing I ask them, where are you fishing? And before, sometimes people, they don't want to give up their spots. I remind people, man, I fished every freaking place you can imagine. Don't tell me where you're fishing. I'll just be honest with you. If you're fishing a lake, try not using a weight. I used to fish with a weight a lot in the lakes, man. And a good friend of mine, Felix Covarrubias, me and him used to fish Delta Lake a lot, and we used to catch big gars there. I used to use a weight there. He wouldn't use a weight. If you can get away without using a lead weight, man, that is the best thing in my experience that you can do, because now you don't have that extra weight holding down that line, that leader, putting a little bit of tension on that gar when he's pulling that rig, and you're going to cast a lot better and farther if you can get away without using a weight. That's what I tell him. Then I tell him, okay, if you're fishing the Arroyo Colorado, use a 3-ounce weight. If you're fishing the floodways, use a 2-ounce weight. It's crazy how you don't need more than, or at least in my experience, you don't need more than a 2-ounce weight. Now, of course, if it's been, like he said, if the current is running strong, after a heavy rain, you get a lot of rainwater running, a lot of drainage water running through these floodways and the arroyo, where maybe the 3-ounce might be not even heavy enough, right?
Right.
I've never really fished those areas where the current's real strong, but I have been around them where they're freaking strong.
Yes. Yeah, that's my preference as well. If I can get away without using any weight, I would. I don't like anything between me, the line, and the leader and the guard. If top water is necessary at the moment, I will use it. And even then, I'll try to get away without using a weight. For me, I use top water and weight at the same time to keep it from running down current. Or if I want to put my float stationed in the center, I'll use a slip weight on my line, which allows as an anchor support to keep my float in one area.
So there's a good point too. I sell a lot of floats. For example, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hook styles of leaders. I'm fishing 90% of the time bottom. That's just my style, but a lot of people do fish to the top. Now, how he says, if you want to fish with your top water or your cork, your float, and there's an area that has current, if you don't put anything to sustain that float in place, your float's going to drift to the side. You don't want that. You want to have your float exactly where you want it, depending if you want it close to the side, the center, wherever you want it there. There's a lot of current. One thing that helps is putting a line, your weight through your main line and have it running without it being stationed anywhere, right? Then you tie your float. So what happens is your weight sinks down. It holds that float in place while that float comes back up. And
Correct, yep.
Sometimes it works, and I know there's sometimes that it hasn't worked, but for most of the time, that does work if they're trying to use a float on a current area. And if there's no current, float is freaking awesome to use. That's what I tell people. They're like, well, what do you recommend, a float or a leader? I tell them, you're fishing resacas, lakes, use a float if you want to use a float. Of course, the wind has to be in your favor and all that, because if the wind is against you, well, more than likely it's probably going to blow towards you.
Right, right.
But yeah, he had a good point there with the float and how to use a float in a current area. But me personally, I use I fish bottom 90% of the time.
Right.
All
I love bottom fishing. I do that a lot of the time. But lately I've been noticing in some of these areas where we're lacking a lot of rain, our lakes and rivers are really low. And with that being said, we're getting really closer to the bottom of the algae, the green algae on the bottom. It's building up around our baits, building up around our trebles. So that hides the bait as it sits down on the river bank. So it makes it a little more difficult. Even the guards can still smell it, still sniff it out. Because of that algae that I've been dealing with a lot with on these rivers, I've gone to float and only adapting to the water at that moment, because the suspending my bait off the ground during those algae times where our riverbanks are real low, it helps the gar. It helps me from actually getting slammed with full of algae all over my bait, and it actually leaves it a little bit more, readily available visibility. It's right there in front of their face instead of just being smashed and covered all on the bottom. That's only on certain times. 90% of the time, though, I do just like you say. My go-to is double treble, and no weight, and just line and baits.
Yeah, so his go-to is a double treble, which we probably have right here. And this is and check this out. I have 7 different styles of rigs. So when people come to my store and they're like, which leader's good? Some people, really kind of need you to recommend them a hook. I tell them this. The double treble leader, let me get one because now it looks like a quadruple treble. So your double treble leader is probably our number one seller.
Oh, yeah.
It's our number one seller. My favorite rig, personally, is going to be an M2A. It's a rig that I came up with. It's an M2A leader. Some of y'all don't know what it is. You can go over to my YouTube channel, and see what an M2A leader. But I'll demonstrate it for you all real quick what an M2A looks like. And again, these are 2 liters per pack. So ignore the other one. But this is my M2A leader. Now, another leader that I love to use is your single J hook. Me personally is a single J hook. So anybody that's gar fishing for the first time, I'm probably gonna recommend them a single J hook. If they don't want to go by the double treble, recommend them the single J hook. I'm gonna tell them go with a single J hook. It's simple, it's easy, it's not hard to use, but the double treble is probably our number one selling leader. I've used the double treble a long time before I switched over to these.
Okay, so another thing about with rigs that I also take into consideration when I'm gonna hit a body of water. If you're fishing somewhere where there's a lot of trees and sticks on the bottom, you might want to stick more to a single J, just because that double treble is gonna snag on everything and anything on the bottom. So that's what helps me save my leaders instead of go running through so many brushy areas or any areas that have lots of stumps on the bottom are gonna up your odds in getting snagged with a double treble. That's where I'll run to a single J for my setup to be able to keep my bait in there, retrieve my leader back, and keep going at it and hitting it for these gar.
Yeah, he has a great point there. Also take into consideration the areas you're at, just like he explained. So that's why I put him in the wrong package, but it's all right. So that's why I probably recommend the single J hook, because it's simplicity, it's less hook exposure to debris or getting stuck and all that. So yeah, he has a great point there. Other than that, there's all types of different hooks and leaders and all that, but for the fast part, the single J hook and the double treble are probably your more common ones out here to use. So we went over spots, we went over bait, we went over gear, we went over leaders, weights, what you should consider, stuff like that. We went over a lot of great information for the guests, man. And Mr. Ruben over here is a very knowledgeable fisherman, as y'all heard him say. Y'all heard him give y'all a lot of good advice, great advice. I hope this advice works for a lot of you all. And next time you ask for a spot, be ready to have your Google Maps. I will tell you great waterways. For example, the Arroyo Colorado. You have the floodways, but be aware of your laws. Be aware of, what you're allowed to do. At the end of the day, if you want to go exploring on your own, and you don't mind going into fields and all that, just be aware that you can get in trouble, but use Google Maps to refer these spots, because it is going to be your best friend. And how he says, go through your major highways where your body of waters cross through, and start from there.
Find your public areas, yes, sir.
Find your public areas and stuff like that. So yeah, when's your next fishing trip, Ruben?
I haven't planned one yet. Like I said, I'm also a bait dealer, so it's time to stock up the shop again, because I've been out there preparing for this tournament that you hosted. It was a great tournament.
Thank you.
Beautiful and amazing. Probably one of the best I've been to, and it actually is motivating me and my lady and to try to put one together for ourselves.
Awesome, bro.
So it's a little nerve-wracking, but we're going to give it a shot one day.
The best advice I can give you, bro, is just do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Don't hold back, man.
Awesome.
Just do it. I like to encourage people to do these type of things, Go out and if you like these type of things, do them, man. Sell your bait, make your business in the fishing industry, put your brand out there. I encourage many people to do it, and I think a lot of people are scared, man.
Right.
They're scared, and I understand, because I've been there, I've done that. But deep down inside, if you feel what is right, just do it, man.
Right,
because
right.
it's going to work out. Trust me, I promise.
Awesome. Yeah, I know gar fishing can be real discouraging sometimes, because you go out there so many times, especially as a beginner trying to land one, and you can get pushed away so easily. You just have to stay dedicated. Don't give up.
You're right.
It's not for everybody. This is a very patient, time testing, nerve testing game, and you just have to stay dedicated to it and stay going at it, stay perseverance on it, and just get through it.
Yeah, man. And just like he says, it can be very discouraging to people who are starting gar fishing. They go out a couple of times and they're like, man, this sucks. I can't catch nothing. Nobody wants to give away their spots. I know how y'all are feeling, because I've been there. I've been there, but at the end of the day, it just gave me the motivation and the courage to do it on my own. And at the end of the day, that's what it takes, man. Another great tip that I can tell you all is on these Facebook communities, there's a lot of good fishermen out there. There's a lot of people that might be, a-holes, but it's okay, because that's part of that's the part of the fishing community, man. It's just the way it is. But there are good people out there. Look for somebody that you can tag along with. I tell people, look, man, if you have the chance to tag along with somebody that already knows, learn from them. And always be a good person to them, because they can teach you a lot. And that's going to be your best thing to learn, and your fastest way is hands-on with somebody that already knows. So make friends out there. I've met a lot of great people. I've met a lot of good fishing partners with the Facebook fishing community that I know to this day. Some people might not be the fishing partner you expect. It's okay. Don't let that discourage you. There's people out there that will be. Just don't give up, man, and keep at it.
Exactly. Never give up. Same thing with me. I started with not knowing as much, and I ended up meeting up some individuals that were very experienced, and they were kind enough to share their knowledge with me and explain to me and teach me, not just gar fishing, but bait, looking for bait, finding bait to be able to chase the gar. Because before you go gar fishing, you have to understand what they eat, and then you have to understand where to find what they eat. And that's where it really starts in the beginning. It's the bait for the fish. And they were kind enough to share me their knowledge. And there is individuals out there that will take you. There's a lot of people out there that won't give you nothing. I've had people come and buy bait, and I'll ask them, like, okay, so where are you going, what type of water, because they don't want to tell me where they're going, and that's fine. But I can help you guide you as far as what kind of bait to use for the area that you're targeting. And there's people who won't speak on where they're going at. And I understand, I respect that. At the same time, there is a lot of individuals out here in this fishing community that will help you out, and I have a handful of individuals that have guided me from day one, and showed me how to target these fish, and taken me under their wing, and helped me. And these guys are still successful to this day. Um, and I just don't think that there's not people out there that will help you. Some will. Just ask.
Now that he mentions, I think another important thing to talk about is don't be discouraged if you're on Facebook and you ask someone for their spots and they will not give it to you. It's something that we must respect because, for all we know, they work so hard to get a spot like that, and then for them to expose it just like that, it's not the smartest thing to do. And you got to remember that on Facebook you might see a couple of people just commenting or reacting to a post, but there's hundreds if not thousands of people watching. If they expose a spot that they finally or barely got to be successful with, what's going to happen? That information is getting into the wrong hands, and that spot will probably not be available much longer. So respect it. Just respect it. If they, it's there's nothing wrong with asking. There's nothing wrong with asking, and there's nothing wrong with them not telling. That's just my point on that.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So yeah, Ruben, it was an honor having you, and congratulations on your King of the Water win. He took the first championship belt that we ever made for the King of the Water fishing tournament. It's freaking amazing. It's like I tell everybody, when you're joining these tournaments, the money goes.
Mm-hmm.
The award stays forever, man.
Yes, sir.
That award will stay on your wall forever. The money gets blown quick.
Yes, sir.
And that's a pretty nice award that he got. And all the other contestants too, they got some nice trophies and stuff like that. The kids got some good stuff. So stay tuned for our YouTube video. We are gonna produce a nice video of the event. For the people that are on our Spotify listening, you can watch this live on YouTube at Los Canaleros del 956. And the people on our YouTube watching, you can go to our podcast at LCD 956 Fishing HQ on Spotify. And we do have already some pretty good episodes. Before I end the episode, I want to apologize for taking a while for another episode, but summertime is one of my most busiest seasons and times in my business, and I thought it was time to give you all something just right after summer, and what other subject to talk about gar fishing and what it takes to gar fish. So Ruben, thanks for coming along to the episode. It's an honor. And everybody, stay tuned. Y'all take care, and I will see you on the water, everyone.